What do you want?
We'll have 2 of whatever he's having.
Hey, not too much, not too much. You're always overdoing it. Okay, here we go. Daily special. Nice and tasty. One more for you.
Oh, I'm okay. No problem, please, sir.
That'll be 2 texts.
That'll be what now, sir?
2 texts? Credits? What do you think this is, a Griffin charity?
When? Pam.
Come on, kid. Pay up.
Okay. Is this enough, sir?
Whoa, where the blazes did you get that? Oh. This ain't enough. Premium topping's 5 decks extra. And you're gonna want to leave a tip for, good service. How much you got on you? Come on, let's see.
Watch it. He's trying to cheat you.
Mind your business, scum! Oh, my arm!
Where'd you 2 find an old Republic credit in mint condition?
His dad gave it to him for lunch money.
Lunch money?
Where are you 2 from?
Aden? What? We're just looking for some directions.
Yeah, you and me both.
Welcome, Masters and Padawans, to episode 598 of Full of Sith. It's me, Bryan Young, another special live episode of Full of Sith for you from Atlanta Comic Convention. This time, Holly Frey and I took to the stage with Maggie Lovitt from Collider to talk about Steven Spielberg and his influences on Skeleton Crew. It was a really fun discussion, and we had a great time with it, and I really hope you enjoy this one as well. We probably got one more recording for you, and then Holly and I will be back with you for our 600th episode, and we'll see what special stuff we can come up with for that. But still traveling a ton, so hopefully maybe we'll see you in all kinds of weird places. If anyone happens to be in Houston this coming weekend, I'll be at BrawlCon playing games with folks, including a Star Wars role-playing game that I'm game mastering, so there's still tickets available for that as far as I can tell, if you're interested in that, if that's at all interesting to you. But so without further ado, here we are with Steven Spielberg's influences on Skeleton Crew. Welcome, chairs, humans, and other beings. This is Star Wars Skeleton Crew and its Spielbergian influences. I'm Bryan Young, a host of the Full of Sith podcast and Star Wars expert. I've written for StarWars.com and Star Wars Insider, and I've written so many Star Wars trading cards about the crew of Skeleton Crew and all of the various pirates and planets and everything. I can't even tell you how many different Skeleton Crew cards I've had to write because they're so adorable. It's just great. But that's me, and I'll have our fellow panelists introduce themselves, and we'll get going on this incredible, fun adventure.
Yes, well, my name is Maggie Lovitt. I am the deputy news editor over at Collider. I cover Star Wars, so I am considered a Star Wars expert. I loved Skeleton Crew and got to interview quite a few of the Skeleton Crew folks that made it. And my claim to Skeleton Crew fame is that I got Chris Ford to tell me what species Neil is, and so I got to exclusively reveal that to the world.
I'm Holly Fry. I am a managing executive producer at iHeartMedia, and I co-host the Star Wars podcast that Brian does, Full of Sith, and occasionally have written for StarWars.com and work with ILM on presenting some of their immersive experiences, and have been in it with Star Wars since day one because it came out on my 6th birthday.
So one of the things about Skeleton Crew is that right off the bat, it was marketed to everyone as it's Goonies and Star Wars. And Goonies, as we know, is a film produced by Steven Spielberg and directed by Richard Donner. And, Steven Spielberg was really one of the pioneers of the kids on bikes genre. It seems like that's a recent term we've coined.
Yeah.
But that's really what it felt like with that E.T. sort of vibe. And I think that's the image of Elliot and his buddies on the bike in E.T. is really where we kind of feel that term sort of started, right? And they even call Stranger Things that, even though I think Stranger Things is as much Stephen King as anything else. Yeah. But I'm just wondering, as we looked at Skeleton Crew, how much of that Spielberg felt apparent from the beginning to the two of you?
Immediately. From the first trailer, it was so evident that it was slice of life, Spielbergian, Amblin, returning to the basics. And I think that is one of the earliest draws to it, because they were appealing to people who were looking for the nostalgia of the comfort of those films, as well as presenting it to a younger audience and being like, hey, this is something that like matters to your parents but should matter to you too. And I think that's something that the Amblin films originally did so well, with kind of appealing to a broad multi-generational audience.
Yeah, I mean, having grown up in the era when Amblin was making those films and being a kid during that time, there's a really fabulous magic trick that I feel like Skeleton Crew pulled off. There is always, to me, a problem, like in Star Wars fandom, you always find those people that get kind of angry or feel cheated that in the latest Star Wars project doesn't make them feel like they did when they were 8 years old and saw it for the first time, and like, hey, guess what? You can't time travel. You're not 8 anymore. But because this did hit those nostalgia points that Maggie was just talking about, I kind of did feel like I was 8 years old again. It was like a whole new adventure. Even though I am much older than the kids in this show, like I could still identify with them and want to be part of their world. And it just was like, oh yes, they have all of the magic that those films felt like when I was a kid.
It's interesting that it feels like there are places where that sort of genre has really thrived, but also where it feels like it's disappeared a little bit. And it felt like, Star Wars feels like it's always been a part of that, but also away from it. What is it about Skeleton Crew that felt like it was such a breath of fresh air, even though it maintained so much of that nostalgia?
There's an inherent innocence to it, right? It sits outside of the bigger overarching thematic exploration of like good versus evil. It's just kids on an adventure, and they are all earnest. None of them has like a dark past. And so it just felt like a very pure, very innocent romp where you knew you could root for everybody except, Jod.
I don't know, I rooted for
or any of his other. I mean, listen, I did too. I wanted him to be a good guy in the end, but he wasn't. But all of those main players, there was no question about whether or not you wanted them to succeed.
And I think it was also ingenious the way they designed it so that these kids are from a planet that exists outside of everything else that we know that was happening at that time. The kind of construction of At-Aten, and I'm a big fan. It's one of the reasons why I like The Mandalorian, the first season, so much is because Din was learning a lot of things as new audience people were learning those things. And I think Skeleton Crew really exemplifies that, because these kids are learning so much about the wider galaxy. Like, yeah, they know about Jedi, but they don't know what's happened to the Jedi. Right. So it was a perfect introductory point for people who were looking for that nostalgia, as well as introducing their kids to like, this feels like a movie I watched when I was a kid. So like, let me show this to you.
I want to ask, because I think it's really interesting and important for us to kind of continue having the conversation. But what do we define as Spielbergian? Like, because you look at Skeleton Crew and you go, yeah, that's Spielbergian. But what is it about it that makes it feel Spielbergian, right? Because I can point to shots and I can point to music and I can point to like musical cues, but what is it about it that makes me say this total package, this tone is Spielbergian? Because it's more than the sum of those parts. What is it about Spielberg and his feeling that makes it Spielberg?
I mean, to me, the big thing about Spielberg films that's so fast to key into is that it's almost always involving kids that are put in positions that they should not be in, and they have to like rely on their wits and rise to the occasion and handle things that most adults probably couldn't. But part of the reason they succeed is because they're kids and they're idealistic and they're not bogged down by all of the jaded BS of life. Like, that's where the magic kind of lives for me for Spielberg, is that he understands kids and what they're capable of.
Yeah, I would echo that exactly. I mean, it's the same kind of concept of streetwise kids encountering this larger than life situation, whether it be aliens or dinosaurs, and using their own tools. And I think that's something that modern film in a lot of ways has forgotten, that kids can be smart and clever and use the things that they have without having to be like the chosen one or like gifted and like all of these different things. And I think that harkens back to that Spielbergian kind of tone, and also the way it's shot. So many of those shots, like you were saying, Brian, like look like something out of a Spielberg movie.
I think for me, if I had to pick one word, is earnestness.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Like, there's something so honest about the emotion of all of it. There's no false note in any of it. Like, they're just, it's earnest. Everyone there is wearing every emotion on their sleeve. Even the characters who are being dishonest, they're being earnest in their dishonesty, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, even Jod, even when you meet him, you're like, oh, this guy's slimy. There's something off about him, right? And that's part and parcel of that. But yeah, like some of the shots, like right when we get to Atten for the first time, there's that shot, that establishing shot of the suburban neighborhood that they live in, and it looks very much just like the neighborhood that the kids in E.T. live in.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And it's like, that's that idyllic 80s neighborhood that so many kids were like, man, I wish I could live in that neighborhood. I think there's something about E.T. that feels very connected to Star Wars as well.
Mm-hmm.
Aside from the first mention of Boba Fett on screen.
I was going to say, I think people forget that the first time we ever heard Boba Fett's name on screen wasn't a Star Wars movie, it was E.T. But that, well, and also like the moment where E.T. sees Yoda on Halloween and he's just like, home, home, home,
Yeah.
and then Lucas sort of reversing that and seeing the E.T.s in the Senate pods in Phantom Menace, and
Yeah.
it's just like, E.T.'s basically a Star Wars movie, so like Spielberg belongs in the Star Wars universe on other levels in weird ways, especially E.T. But that first episode really brings the kids on bikes vibe, but puts them on speeder bikes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it kicks it up a notch too, and puts them in situations where instead of the spaceship coming to them, like in E.T., they leave in the spaceship, which I thought was a really fascinating choice. And then it puts parents in the situations. Like, I really loved the scenes where the parents are the ones with the, flashlights in the woods.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is exactly, again, taking those shots, again, from E.T. specifically, where they're running through the woods with the flashlights, but it's the parents this time looking for their kids. It was really remarkable stuff. What was the most striking sort of thing, aside from what might have felt like the obvious stuff for the both of you that was like, oh wow, they're really going deep on the Spielberg in Skeleton Crew?
There is a shot. It's during a funny scene. There's that great moment where Neil and Wim are having their fake lightsaber battle while they're waiting for the bus, but it's the shot of the kids across the street that are just like, these ding dongs. And that, to me, those kids felt very like they are the others in a Spielberg movie that don't understand the protagonists, but they're part of the social construct that those kids grew up in, so they're influential on them in a distant sort of way. And to me, I'm like, all right, I got it. It's really great.
Yeah, I mean, I think I have to just keep going back to that first episode and all the little things that it establishes. The slice of life suburbia is something we haven't really seen in Star Wars. So I think the fact that we saw so much of it in that first episode and establishing this like idyllic world that the children live in, I think is where I was like, okay, this is different. This is not at all like the other Star Wars we've had.
Yeah.
This harkens back to this feeling. And there's so many little moments throughout it, from like Fern getting detention and those scenes and the bus ride to school and like all of those little moments that felt so outside of what we've already seen. And I think that's where I was like, okay, this is different. I need to like brush up on all of my knowledge on Amblin films again so I can get all of the references. And there's a lot. I mean, throughout the entire series, there's little homages to it.
Yeah, I mean, even in that shot that I'm talking about, did any of you notice that one of those kids is like holding a science fair volcano in their hand? And I'm like, perfect, no notes. It's so good.
For me, I think it's the episode where they actually get to the pirate treasure.
Yeah.
And it feels like this really wonderful mix of Temple of Doom and Last Crusade,
Yeah.
Yep.
where they have to do the, penitent man must pass thing, and they're dealing with all the booby traps, and there's actual Indiana Jones treasure in there, and like they've got actual Temple of Doom stuff, and there's something satisfying about the kids getting won over by the adults. I mean, I make no bones about the fact that Temple of Doom is like my second favorite Indiana Jones picture, which is controversial in some circles apparently. But
It's my favorite one. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I thought it was the best one.
But like, there's something so satisfying about all of the kids being all locked up and Indy finally showing up and punching that one guy in the face and him just sliding across the dirt, and the kids are like, yes, we're free. And there's moments in Skeleton Crew that have that sort of just elation for the kids. And it's that moment when SM-33 turns on Jod after, when
Yeah.
it's like, good enough, when she calls Captain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There is, you mentioning SM-33 does bring up to me another quintessential moment that feels Spielbergian, which is that moment when they are finally in that room full of the pillars that have all of the information, and SM-33, who has become their friend, turns on them. And it's that idea that like there are people that can present as evil, but it's not always their own fault. Like, one of the things I love about Spielberg movies is this idea that people's behavior can suddenly shift and not everyone understands it, but like ideally they will come back together. I mean, that goes right back to like Close Encounters, right? Where Dreyfus suddenly becomes a man he was not before that movie started. And not everyone understands it. And it takes a while for his wife to come back to understanding and for everyone to really recognize that he's on his own journey. And so SM-33 sort of represents that to me, that familiar that becomes scary for a moment and then has to be brought back into the fold in a way. It's really, really a kind of a touchstone.
There's a lot of, I don't know how many people like AI, artificial intelligence,
I love the movie so much.
as much as I do. Yes, okay,
I love
good.
that movie so much.
But there's this naivete in Haley Joel Osment's character where he feels like as soon as he gets to the Blue Fairy Godmother, all of his problems are going to be solved. And it's just this childlike wonder that that's just how it's going to be. And all of the kids in Skeleton Crew were like, as soon as we do this, that's how it's going to be, and that's just what's going to happen, and like nothing works out in their favor. But everything else around them sort of conspires to say, okay, well, we'll make it work this time. And there's this moment late in the last episode where like the power comes back. And it kind of reminded me of that moment in AI where the aliens, or not the aliens, like the rest of the AI that look like aliens to us, because they're like, oh man, like this AI actually knew humans, like maybe we should give him this nice day he wants. Where they're like, okay, he can have that. Even though it's not real, right? Like he can have that happily ever after he wants. Because I had to tell myself a story about what happens to Jod at the end, right? Because we don't see what happens to Jod, because it's just like they let him go, but who else is around to turn the power back on, right? That Jod, I have to tell myself like Jod's the one who flipped that switch.
Right.
Like, man, the kids let me go. Fine, here, I'm going to turn the power back on and disappear on my own. Because maybe those kids, I think that's what Spielberg has in spades across all of his movies that have kids in them, is that they believe in the people around them even when they turn on them, or even when things don't go the way they should, they still believe in those people around them.
Yeah.
And Jod was sort of gobsmacked by that.
That kind of leads into another thing that to me is very Spielbergian about the kids that are in his movies. The things that we often perceive as the weaknesses of children are actually their strengths in Spielberg projects. Like the fact that they are naive, the fact that they will not give up on somebody even when all evidence tells them not to. Like that heart is what always ends up saving the day. And that's sort of... it's very life affirming to get that message.
It is. That's something I like about his movies in particular, is there isn't a loss of innocence. The children still maintain that innocence up until the very end of the film. And I think a lot of filmmakers look at children and assume that you have to put them through horrible things to have them like transform and have their, the innocence stripped away, the coming of age story. But you don't lose that. And you don't lose that here in Skeleton Crew, which I think is a great message, that you can still look at the world with wide-eyed wonder, even after you've gone through something that's rough.
Wim is still worried about that exam at the end.
Right?
He just wants that bubble bath.
And Neil just wants his bubble bath.
I mean...
I think that was one of the, like, there's so many moments like that are character moments that feel like that felt like a Spielberg moment to me, was the bubble bath stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I know, 100%.
All of Neil's family feels very Spielberg, Little Baby Tulu, forever. Just that it is a family. They're so connected. They do not appear to be dysfunctional. Neil's mom is kind of badass. She looks like, a sweet little homemaker, and in fact, she's willing to take extraordinary risks to save her kid and her family. Like it's very heartwarming.
Yeah. Even KB's design is very Spielbergian.
Yeah.
Do we have any questions from the audience about this topic? Yes.
Right.
So, I wondered if it was just supposed to be, because we'd seen Jod kind of, there were certain times where I thought, oh, he's going to show sympathy here. He really never did, I guess, full on anyway. He wasn't ever committed to it. I was wondering what you thought at that. I know you mentioned you thought maybe the kids let him go. I wonder if you thought he would, I guess I was trying to see my thought on it versus...
Yeah, no, I think the thing with Jod personally, and I'd love to hear what you two think as well, but I think Jod kind of goes the way the wind blows. And Jod is out for Jod, right? And I mean, Jod is very much in the pattern of Long John Silver, and he is
Yes.
going to turn on whoever he needs to in order to make himself as wealthy as possible. And if working with the kids and making himself seem as though, like, yeah, I was back on your side and I was repentant for all the horrible things I did and I am going to be a good guy now, is going to get him access back to all of those Republic des Terres. Like, he is going to do that for a while, and then he could turn on them just as easily all over again, because that's just who he is. Or he could have a genuine turn of heart, or he could just try to go after them for revenge. Who knows? It depends on which Jod we get. And that's really interesting, not knowing who we'd get. You know, when Vader left, when Vader spun away at the end of A New Hope, we knew that he was going to be back gunning for revenge, right? But when Jod leaves, it's like, no idea, right? Like, and it's like the opposite with Lando, right? When Lando takes off at the end of Empire, we know it's like, oh, he's going to actually go help make up for what he did for Han. But we'd never really had a character of that level of playing both sides so capably and so morally flexible take off that who knows? Like, I really don't.
Yeah, I hope we find out, but I don't think I guess
Yeah.
it would be a fun thing to speculate on.
Yeah.
I have to say I really like Jod as a character because, and I wish we had gotten those deleted scenes of like his past that we know were shot and then didn't make it into the final cut, which does happen. But because he is a foil to the children, because we have the kids who have been raised on At-Aten in a kind of closed off society with loving parents and like a structure, and we have Jod who has gone through so much in his childhood and he has had no strong like adult figures in his life, and that's why he's gone the way of piracy. And I hope that we get to see, you know, him not necessarily having like quote unquote redemption, but learning from this experience from the children and seeing that again, going back to this, like the loss of innocence, like you can go through things, you can have people turn on you, but you can still choose to be good. And that's why I like your idea that he's the one that flips the switch that turns the power back on. Even if it's a small act, it's still kind of showing that this experience has had a change on him.
But then he robbed all their houses.
Well,
you
you
know
know.
it. I mean, the thing with Jod that is really great is that one, I mean, the casting was brilliant, right? Jude Law
Perfect.
is inherently likable. And the first episode, I was like, oh, he's Long John Silver. Do not trust him. By the time we're on the French parkour planet, I was like, oh, I want him to live with those kids forever. Right. And then I was like, damn it, I was right to begin with. Like, he's so likable. You keep wanting to buy in, even though you know fundamentally he is always going to screw him over. It's a really brilliant bit of casting. It's also a brilliant bit of writing. And the performance is so good.
It's also fun because we had just seen him as Captain Hook.
Yeah.
Like, 2 years before that, within a year of his casting. So
Yeah.
it's a great role for him.
He's in his pirate era.
It's his pirate era.
I think that's something that's interesting that actually does go back to Spielberg too, where Spielberg has the ability to sort of adapt movements or ideas from classic sort of stories and tell them in such a way that you want them to go a different way, even though they're still heading the way those classic stories are going. There's as much Treasure Island in Skeleton Crew as anything else. And yeah, like you watch Skeleton Crew and from the very beginning it's like, okay, he is Long John Silver and he's going to get their trust and he's going to turn on them just the same way Long John Silver turns on Jim Hawkins. That's just the way these stories and these tropes are structured, but Spielberg can make you trust a character even when they're about to stab you in the back, and they pulled all of the same moves with Jod the same way Spielberg, like with the same tricks Spielberg uses, and stole them right from him, to make us just adore him.
Jerk.
Yeah. Spielberg's too good at training, like, just through osmosis culturally generations of filmmakers at being good at that kind of stuff. Because I mean, like, who didn't want Jod to just like hang out with the kids and be nice to them forever?
Yeah.
I like a bad boy.
I know it was like hard watching him be like mean to the kids.
It was.
I didn't like it.
Sucked. Did you have a question? Oh, yeah.
You didn't want to be
you
nice to
didn't
the
want him
kids?
to?
I don't know. I just
My people. Yeah, like a
You
happy
want him to stay
medium.
the villain?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think a great, if we were to get more, it would almost be fun if the kids, without becoming in any way dark themselves, learned how to play his own game with him and exploit all of his various foibles to actually get what they want and have him have that revelation late in the game. I think that would be really fun to watch.
That would be really great. I would love
I
that.
thought there was a chance that's where it was going. That like they would realize that he was betraying them, and that the kids had picked up enough of his
Quirks.
quirks, and that they had a different leader also. Like obviously Wim wasn't the leader. and
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
Yeah, that Fern was wily enough to figure out how to maneuver.
Fern could outmaneuver him because she was getting underestimated.
Yeah.
Like I thought that was a possibility narratively, and it wasn't the case. But I was still satisfied with what we got.
Yeah, me too.
And I will say, mentioning the pirate thing, I also love SM-33 being Smee.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
one of my favorite allusions or Easter eggs. I don't know which one it would be, but
It was funny. I talked to the writers, and they were like, "That was temporary. We really never thought anybody would like let us get away with that.
it was great.
We just put it in there as a placeholder, and then like every time we thought about changing it, we just kind of forgot, and we thought somebody was going to call us on it at some point, and it made it all the way to production, and we were like, I guess we forgot to change that, and then it just lasted."
Nice. See, I'm a little bit the opposite. I'm like, really?
Too on the nose for you.
Predictable? No. But then I loved him, so it didn't matter.
No, he's the
That guy has a
best.
song in his heart, man.
I think karaoke's going on next door.
Oh, everything is illuminated.
It's 2 doors down.
He's got a song in his heart. He needs to share it with the world.
Illuminate the luminous beings.
Did anyone else have anything they wanted to add or ask? Otherwise, we'll just keep vamping. Oh, okay, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Don't apologize.
I was wondering about the filmmakers who helped make it, like John Watts and David Lowery. You guys noticed maybe what they brought to the table on this kind of a tale. I know you guys have talked about how Spielberg and all that kind of stuff was an influence, but Lowery's somebody obviously The Green Knight came out, and I'm excited to hear you work in Star Wars. Like for me, I like to see these younger filmmakers kind of get involved because it's fresh.
Yeah.
Like maybe they don't have the frequency, like there has to be assembly line Star Wars. Obviously there's a language in it, but to see what they add to it. Or if you guys noticed anything
I have to say,
we hadn't seen in any of the other shows, I don't know.
I feel like the one director that stands out, and she always stands out, is Bryce Dallas Howard. And I think that she came up in an era that is the Amblin world, and so she brought a lot of that to her filmmaking for that. And she's also very much like an actor's director, so I feel like there's a clear emotion in her episodes of any of the Star Wars series that she's worked on, and she's so good with the kids, and that was such a fun episode. That one stands out to me. But going back to Lowery, I think I, at least as somebody who really loves Peter Pan and Captain Hook, like I loved his Peter Pan and Wendy, so I thought that kind of through line between the two projects, and then reuniting and working with Jude Law on this one, I thought kind of brought some of those elements between the two projects.
I really for me, I was actually a little surprised that the Daniels directed an episode on the heels of Everything Everywhere All at Once. And they came to that well before they won the Best Picture Oscar, which is actually kind of shocking, like how far long ago before we saw these episodes that they were shot.
Yeah.
But that they didn't bring any of their signature kind of stuff to it, and that so many of the directors, they sort of understood the assignment that they were going to take everything that was in their cultural and like just personal pop culture DNA about Spielberg and George Lucas and that sort of kids on bikes filmmaking and distill it and just make it as pure as they could, right? And that's really what they brought to it, which I found really interesting. I mean, they did bring some of their own individual flares. Like the ending of the Daniels episode was when SM-33 goes bonkers at the kids, and it has that sort of like snorri cam view of SM-33 going at them. And so that was, I think, probably the biggest, Daniels sort of flair that we got at them. But yeah, to the point like Bryce Dallas Howard, you got to think this is somebody who like grew up hanging out with her dad, who was literally like while she was growing up learning at the feet of George Lucas on the set of Willow and stuff. So it's like we've got a lot of that DNA across the board with all of this stuff, and it's maybe that's why it was just so well crafted across every episode. It was just good.
I have no addendum.
I was going to also add, and then we also have Jake Schreier, who has now most notably directed the Thunderbolts, and I think he showed off his ability to direct an ensemble with his episode, which then we see kind of that through line into what he did with Marvel. And I think Skeleton Crew really has the best lineup of directors. It's like really impressive.
It was really good, and I mean it was like they all. I think that Skeleton Crew had the most consistent tone episode to episode of all the TV shows. Not to say Andor Season 2 didn't have a consistent tone episode to episode. It did have a consistent tone within each arc, but each arc had a different flavor, and that was very much on purpose, right?
Season 1, the same way, yeah.
And Season 1 was very much the same way, exactly. But Skeleton Crew was one story across those episodes, and it had different directors every episode, but it was tonally consistent across all of them, and that, I think, was a testament to the showrunners, like John Watts.
Yeah.
Chris Ford.
And, and the actual, like, skills of every director working on it, that they understood the assignment of what the tone of the show needed to be, what they could add to it, and what they should stay out of. You know what I mean? Because if the Daniels episode was too much wacky Daniels stuff, how much out of place, like how out of place would that have looked if they didn't lean as much into the Spielberg as everybody else did?
It's really a great balancing act of, all of these younger directors who are coming in with, like you said, it's like a breath of fresh air. They all have a fresh perspective on it, but all of them applied their skill set and their aesthetic and their, way of filmmaking in service to the story, never to show off what they could do, which is like not always how stuff goes, right? So it's kind of a testament to how dedicated they were to the bigger story, and I love it.
And they were all dealing with a gaggle of children.
Who were incredible. Those kids killed it.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, I'm not the hugest fan of child actors, and that's no shade to any child actor, but like when you're in that position and you're little and someone's like, do your dance, honey, like it can get a little bit, kind of trite and jazz handy. All of those kids maintained such emotional honesty from episode 1 right to the end that I was like, how? They're all just remarkably emotionally intelligent and super just nuanced in their performances for kids, which is testament to both the showrunners and the directors as well as the actors themselves.
Which is hugely Spielbergian, because I don't think anybody cast child actors better than Spielberg in the 80s.
Agreed.
Like, you look at the ensemble child casts that he assembled for, like E.T., or even just like the smaller parts that are supporting parts, like the two kids in Jaws, right? Like, even though they're supporting parts, there are a lot of great moments in Jaws across the board, but one of the most memorable is the moment in Jaws where Roy Scheider is drinking just all that wine, and the kid is copying him and asks him to give him a kiss, right? Because he needs it, right? And the kid is so honest in that performance and in that moment, and Spielberg just lets that performance breathe. And the kid really doesn't even have any lines in the movie, but Spielberg brings that out and lets it sit on the forefront in a way that, like, I think other directors don't have the ability to bring that honesty in the casting or in the performances of the kids. And, you know, Henry Thomas and Drew Barrymore in E.T. or any of the other supporting kids in his movies, like, I mean, Temple of Doom.
Well, even Close Encounters, right?
Yeah.
The I forget his name, the child actor in that. You know, if you see behind the scenes stuff, Spielberg was so careful because that character is not afraid of the situation, to always keep him in like a state of joy and curiosity on set and never try to overwhelm him or push him in ways that were gonna, you know, potentially break that spell of having fun all the time. And that's why that performance is so beautiful, because that kid is like this conduit of joy in a world that is falling apart and freaking out, and all of the adults are panicking, and you get this one little like pinpoint of light. And it just speaks to how much he understands, again, the psyche of kids and how to work with them, but also how powerful that is to see just a kid be joyful and to be a kid and be curious. Like that's like the magical stuff we all want in our lives, and we get wadded up in all the busyness of, you know, our day-to-day, and it's easy to lose track of that and to lose it within yourself. But like, you just need one good example and you're like, oh yeah, that's what that's like. I need more of that.
There's also, I mean, there's other performances that he definitely had a hand in helping shape in certain ways and bring to the screen, whether that's him as a producer with the kids from Goonies, with Richard Donner as a director, or in more direct ways where he was more hands-on with Poltergeist.
Yeah.
Which, you know, the child performances in Poltergeist are legendary.
Yeah.
In a different way than like you're describing. Just he had his hands all over everything in the 80s in that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think that they also had that earnestness sort of.
Yeah.
You know, I know they're kind of supposed to be rambunctious or whatever, but you know, they're kids, so it's like, you're right. I think he's great for that.
Yeah. And
Much like yourself, I'm not always the biggest fan of kid actors, but I also feel like, you know, when you have good actors around them and stuff like that, it can help. You know, unfortunately, you have a great director, Spielberg.
yeah. And John Watts had to not only pick the kids, but pick the directors to put in front of the actors.
Well, and the other thing that, you know, everybody that worked on the production talked about was how well Jude Law worked with the kids and how he kind of became like their home base in terms of everything. Like they looked to him for help, you know, in like how to navigate through a scene. He let them be kids and played with them at their level. Like that's another really important aspect of it. Like all of the puzzle pieces that can enable and nurture a really amazing ensemble cast of kids were in place sort of perfectly here. Which I really, really appreciate.
Also, when I talked to John Watson and Chris for Script Magazine, they were talking about how they were able to, they wrote everything, but then were also able to adjust the scripts because they shot largely in order based around the kids' personalities. Like they shot the first episode and they got to work with the kids and saw how they could lean into different things and actually tailor things better to the kids, which is not always the case that you're able to do with projects like this. So they were smart enough to know that they could lean into what the kids were really like and what they could bring to the performance by altering what their intentions for the characters were.
Yeah.
Like they were saying the kid who played Neil was really like that. Like they were, one story they told me was, you know, on his first day, he was supposed to be very like slowly like having a really hard time running up the grassy hill, and they're like, he just took it all in one go and like didn't realize he'd made it to the top and was out of breath and was like looking around like, whoa, did I do that? Like, and they're like, oh man, like they suddenly understood Neil on a different level than
Yeah.
they had, and were able to go through and revise the scripts because they're like, that's just him. Like he's just Neil.
Neil is the best.
Yes.
Any other questions or anything? Like I said, we'll just. Do you guys have a favorite character?
I mean, it's Neil.
Jod.
It's Neil. It's Neil and Neil's mom. And little baby Tulu.
It's also Fern. I actually got to tell a really entertaining story when I talked to John and Chris. So when I was a kid, and I had a friend group, and we all played Star Wars together, and this was when we were like 11 or 12. We had this whole story that we were runaway Jedi Padawan, and we ended up on a pirate ship, and we befriended this pirate that was like modeled after Captain Hook, and like had this whole story. And then when Skeleton Crew came out, I was like, oh my god, this is the story like we told as children. And so I see a lot of myself in Fern. So I love Fern to death. But I think that's another reason why Skeleton Crew resonated, because it reminded so many of us of the stories that we played with our friends when we were kids.
Is Snowball an acceptable answer?
Yeah,
Yes.
100%.
Yeah.
Because Snowball was great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Do you guys remember who Snowball is?
Snowball's the little weird rat creature that lives in SM-33's eye hole.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just love that SM-33 has a little rat creature that lives in his brain circuits.
Don't we all?
Yeah, no, I love SM-33. I think SM-33, and this is something that I talked to them about, and I was like, how do you all keep outdoing yourselves with like really cool droids that are distinctly different than the last really cool droid that was in a Star Wars project? And they're like, I don't know, man. Because like Andor had B2 Emo, who's like, who doesn't love B2 Emo?
Oh, he's the best.
And then we had like K2. And then we had like K2SO, and then we have like Chopper, and we had like BB-8, and then they're like, you know, what would be better than BB-8, like Dio. I don't know. My 10-year-old.
I don't know if Dio is better
I was
than
gonna say Dio is my
BB-8.
least favorite of those droids.
My 10-year-old thinks
love
Dio
all-
is the best droid ever, and like Dio, like he's got all that trauma, and it's just like, no, thank you.
That movie also gave me trauma.
That's a different panel.
I know it is.
But like it's just like all the droids, like Chopper, like how do you one up, like not one up R2, but like how do you make something so distinctly different from R2 that's different that people are going to love? And it's like, here's Chopper, and then you get all the way down and it's like, we've done everything, and it's like, nope, here's SM-33, and it's like, man, that's rad.
I mean, I also want to give
K2?
honorable mention to Fuzzball. Well, we had K2 before from
that's true.
Rogue One, but like the Captain EO references for me are like the most delicious candy in this show. I love them so much.
Yeah, that was good, but that was a Coppola thing, not a Spielberg thing.
Yeah.
And
I'm
Lucas,
just saying,
it's
if
all
you're
Lucas.
asking about characters,
Yeah.
Fuzzball made me very happy in my dark
That
heart.
did.
And the little, my brain is blanking on the species, the teak-esque critter.
They're called Teaks now.
They are just called teaks now?
Yeah.
Great.
Also loved, I'm blanking on the character's name and the actress's name, but she voiced Merida. She's one of the pirates chasing after Jod. She's really cool looking. I'm blanking on her name completely.
It starts with a P, the character.
Yeah.
Pip?
No.
No, it's yeah. No, I
You know who
you're
I'm talking about, right? Everybody knows who I'm talking about?
Yeah. Jod's former, perhaps paramour, definite colleague in crime.
With the really cool
Yes.
Yeah, with the really cool eyes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank
Pocket.
you.
There
Yes.
you go.
I was right a little bit.
We were so out of pocket.
I don't know where Pocket went, like out of my head. Like, I don't know. That's such a really cool name. That whole ruse about the wise elders is,
That's so fun.
yeah.
Oh, so
Well, also that like, hey, our old pirate base turned into a pleasure spa.
Yeah.
and the
And there's a
Cathallops.
Cthulhu in it.
Yeah, and that it really likes hearing old stories.
Yeah.
And that it really likes the kids, and that it can smell dangerous people, and it doesn't like the smell of Jod.
Yeah. There's so many wildly creative, fun things that you would, even after we have lived through a world of Borgullet, we still would not have anticipated. Is pretty magical. That's part of why it's so great.
Okay, so we're out of time. Thank you all for coming. Thank you all for participating.
Yes.
And
And you two
That's
have
it.
a book signing together.
yes,
right?
we have a book signing over at
509.
booth
Books a Million.
509.
Yeah.
Yes, so hopefully we'll see you over there. So thank you all for joining us, and we will see you next time. I hope you've had a great con.
Thank you all.
So, like we've said before, if you want to get a hold of us, me anyway, if you want to find me, you can find me at swankmatron.com or follow me on social media at swankmotron. As far as Full of Sith goes, you can listen to the entire back catalog of episodes at fullofsith.com. And you can send us email at holocron@fullofsith.com. We'd really love to hear from you. So be sure to rate and review the show wherever it is you listen to it, and be sure to tell your friends about it. So for super producer Mike Pilot, for Maggie Lovitt joining us this episode, and for Holly Fry, I'm Bryan Young, and the Force will be with you always.
Sir, if you'll not be needing me, I'll close down for a while.